We now leave the floor to the editors to begin this discussion.
Okay, we got one empty seat in the house, so Karthik, can I request? Oh, you've just had a session, so oh, come on. We have enough issues with BARC, don't forget. Huh? And we'll open up to the house also. Where do we get a chance to sit with the chairman of BARC, the child of controversy? They say I'm controversy's child, today you're controversy's child. Shashi, thank you first of all. That was a great session, wasn't it? Let's have a round of applause for the last session. Absolutely brilliant. And we want to be candid. And I know this is going to be headline material. Chairman of BARC sitting with the organization and the channels who've complained the loudest to him over the last few months and years maybe. So Shashi, first question. Why have you agreed to do this? This is what you call self-inflicted punishment. I gave you a choice and you said, no, I want to do this.
No.
So why have you agreed to do this?
So I'll tell you. The session?
This session. No,
you said the chairmanship of BARC.
Both actually, yes. Thank you.
So firstly, before we go, I want to make one clarification. I am chairman. The chairman is elected from the board and it's a voluntary position. The CEO of BARC, as was called out, is not me. You can imagine mentally Nakul Chopra there. And if there are any mental knives, please, all the knives should come to Nakul Chopra behind there.
Oh God.
So I carry the good karma there. To this session.
On a serious note, yeah.
I tell you why I agreed to do this session.
Yes.
I believe we must communicate. I believe this is a large forum. And I believe there is a lot of issues, some real, some perceived, as far as new genre is concerned.
Yeah.
So just like you have this, of putting me under the spotlight, it's for me to also use this opportunity to communicate a lot of things which I'm reasonably sure will be a discovery to your audience today, that that's not what is true about BARC. It's best to, it's easy to run away. It's best to talk.
So should we open the questioning round? Anyone wants to throw the
Absolutely.
first question to, who wants to throw the first question to, no, Karthik?
Can I first respond to what Karthik has said in the previous
go on.
panel? And, I thought he had a brilliant idea.
Can you hold your mic closer?
He spoke about TV plus digital, and just to let this audience know, and Karthik, I'm sure you know, that we have worked with BARC for the see, most of the problems with BARC are not technology or capability issues. I've been involved with BARC, well, I've been chairman for the last 6 months, but I've been involved with BARC in many capacities. This is a statement I want to make, and I'm sure most of you know this, that it's not a capability, it's a stakeholder management, it's so for example, we have worked on TV plus digital 5 years back. We paid Nielsen 15-20 crore rupees. We had to write it off. We were ready to roll. It's all about stakeholders agreeing that, we do need a common currency of TV plus digital. There are pros and cons. What are the challenges? So, and that's going to be my theme all through. Yeah. So it's not a capability issue. It's a stakeholder issue.
Okay. Shall I throw the first question at you? My first question to you is on landing pages. And you see, there is a responsibility that BARC has. You can't dodge the responsibility. Allow me to complete. You see, nowadays you have TV channels who say, we have a lot of money, we are going to throw money, we are going to spend 20, 30, 40 crores in buying landing pages. If we have the money, so be it. We'll be the #1 channel if we have a lot of money. This is an absurd proposition. Firstly, I think no channel should talk like this. I think news is about serving the audience with news, not trying to buy landing pages. Now you have the technology to differentiate between what is a landing page viewership and what is a normal viewership, right? If these channels say that landing page is a marketing tool, then it can be defined as a marketing tool. But when that marketing tool upsets the viewership pattern in what is a very sensitive genre, where the numbers are easily affected, BARC has the ability to differentiate it. Why can't BARC put out two viewership, with or without landing pages? It has the technology. It has the technology to do it. And the reason I'm asking you this is because, would you want to see a situation, Shashi, where there are only people with lots of money who survive in the media business? Now we have corporate houses, biggest industrial houses of India doing the news. would you like to see a situation, suppose each of them decides, we'll spend 100 crores on landing pages, let's finish the business, let's destroy, then none of us who are on the stage will survive as channels. And I think you are in a very strong position. Am I speaking for NBF here? You're in a very strong position with one decision to make that change. You can go to these channels and say, if you believe in your content, then let your content get you the audience. Why don't you take that decisive step?
So may I respond? Thank
Please,
you for asking
please.
the question.
Thank you.
And thank you for making the opening question. Let me give you a context and not an evasive answer, but I'll give you the real answer. You know, I speak from the heart, whatever gets me into trouble, but so be it. So, BARC created a landing page algorithm about, I forget, 3 years back. At that time, I was not the chairman, but I was involved running the TechCom, along with, you know, the core TechCom, the broadcaster and an advertiser. So the then CEO of BARC, and there was an oversight committee in Praveen Tripathi, various people designed the algorithm, and they came back saying that we must cut out the entire session. So if we are discovering landing page, the entire session should go out, correct? Which is in a way what you're asking for, that the entire session should go out. At that point in time, the broadcaster nominee, and there's a point I'm going to make at the end of it, the broadcaster nominee on the core TechCom was from a large GEC, and he turned around and said, they were also playing cricket. He said, are you trying to say when I get a big tournament like IPL, and if you take out whatever the landing page, the whole session will go out, the whole match will go out. And he said, this is not acceptable. You know, we are doing it as a sampling mechanism, and sampling is there if someone is staying on, so you find out what is less and you want to move out. This is one point. The second suggestion which was made, and then the advertiser member on the core TechCom, very respected and able guy, he said, listen, we as advertisers, and I remember those words vividly, you know, we do shop displays, and shop displays, if you're doing merchandising, and if someone buys because of that, so be it. So this was the interesting thing, Arnab, the interesting thing was that BARC had recommended knock off the entire session, and, you know, it was shot down.
So you are saying that in spirit, allow me to complete. You are saying that in spirit you disagree with the measurement of landing pages. On the shop floor issue, one counter to you.
No, listen,
if I go to a shop,
let me complete the whole story.
Okay, sure.
The story is there. Now, so point I'm making, what I have where in my IPG hat is a separate point, of my point of view. But as BARC, our capability exists to knock off the entire session, correct? It was shot down by the collective wisdom of the board and the TechCom at that point in time, of which I was part of. Having said that, 10 days back, without going to, finally you must understand, BARC is represented, broadcast is represented what is called by IBDF, where all of you are members of IBDF, correct? So, rightly or wrongly, they are the ones who represent. 10 days back, with the president of IBDF, this issue came up again. And I narrated the story. I said, listen, it is your decision to tell us collectively, and then we'll carry the other stakeholders, whether you want the entire session to be knocked off or not. In fact, the algorithm for knocking off the entire session makes our life far easier than doing this business of what we are doing. So, now, this is just a 10-day-old story, and IBDF has to get back. It's not a BARC decision. It's a
Did you take a decision at that meeting of IBDF?
So, IBDF has to revert whether they want to go, as you know, this is a split house. You know, we also suggested, if you feel uncomfortable doing it for all genres, do it only for news. Correct?
Yes.
So my request is that it is not a issue of, and this is where when I talked of collaboration in this session, this could be one attempt. There are few broadcasters today who are for landing pages, many more. So it's for the IBDF to tell the organization, right, listen, we agree, you knock off the entire session. It will take off the entire session.
Since, I'm sorry I'm taking too many questions. After this, I won't ask questions. I promise. Odd. You see, I'm not anchoring tonight, so I have to make up. No, I'm just saying to you, Shashi, you're a reasonable person. You have great wisdom and experience, and I know that what you're saying is very genuine. We don't have a seat on IBDF, so we are such a large federation, and we are treated like we are not on the IBDF board, whereas others who have smaller groups are on the IBDF board in multiple levels. We would like you to, because you have great clout, to correct that, or do something to correct that, maybe recommend that. But in the interim, can I, on behalf of everyone at NBF and Indian industry, request you to allow us to petition you formally, and we've sent a petition you, meet you, and maybe as a group, make a formal pitch to you on why we are pained by this, because we feel if India is only going to be run by three groups, one print group which has thousands of crores of rupees in its treasury, and two industrial groups who have tens of thousands of crores, then they can spend a few hundred crores on landing pages and upset, the news industry. We should have a balance in the news industry, we believe, and we would like to petition you for that if you allow.
You're most welcome. Like I said, finally, we ourselves have said this. I'm sure a lot of people in the room didn't know what I just said.
Yes.
That, chances are, please help me by raising your hands. How many of you heard it for the first time that, BARC had recommended knock off the entire landing page and it came back from the constituents, don't do it. So my plea to you, definitely you recommend, but I will go back to, unfortunately, IBDF is what controls the, it's on the BARC board. So I'll go back to that.
Karthik. So if I may say so, we understand completely where you're coming from and appreciate that. The only limited point I would like to make is that for any reason, let's say this doesn't fructify and doesn't come to a conclusion, as there has been impasse on this issue for a while, at least what BARC has done in the past is that they have reported dual data, which means calling it out for what it is and saying, okay, this is the data with the landing pages, this is the data without the landing pages.
Which allows us to
even if you put that out, which is a matter of fact, it will bring clarity to people and might even dissuade the people who are doing it, because they won't get the ultimate benefit of it, what they're trying to gain out of it.
We're petitioning for that.
Good suggestion, Karthik. I don't know whether you've done in the past, but if you say so, they'll be easy to implement.
We can formally petition BARC on this and meet them on.
So let me put this here. I didn't know we had done it in the past. So
no, sir, we are taking a flight on Monday. All of us are coming to Bombay to petition.
No, you don't have to take a flight.
We are very quick. Our federation is very quick, sir.
It will be easier for me if I figure out, as Karthik has said, that we have done it in the past. Then, firstly, I'm quite surprised by what he said, because if we had done it in the past, why would we have gone back?
Yes, sir. I'll give you a personal example. I remember when India News had two LCNs on DD Free Dish, and we had inquired from BARC and saying that two LCNs at that point of time was perfectly permissible. And while it was permissible, our data was reported, it said that India News runs on two LCNs. So
dual LCN.
Yes, dual
landing
LCN.
page we are not done.
Yeah. So when there is enough precedence in the past to actually report the data when you call it out for what it is, and all we are saying, you're merely stating the facts. So there is nothing wrong that you're doing. This is the data with the pages. This is the data without the pages.
Let's get some other questions. Jaggi?
Jaggi Panda. So this is a question that I've even asked GVK, who's here, when he was with TAM, and is the contentious question that the sample size, the number of boxes have to really exponentially grow, not the gradual growth that we see now. So what is your plan for the coming few years in terms of what kind of growth can we see in that sample size, because that will kind of bring down the lot of ambiguities that we see in the data today?
So I give the answer in 2-3 forms. The first form is, I'm missing my friend Vikram. He's last promised having coffee. Maybe it's good to get him here, because he will answer the question.
Actually, yes. Is Vikram here?
But I will answer the question in 2 ways. So it's a very expensive proposition. As you know, BARC is about 300 crores in terms of expense, and bulk of it comes from the GCs, because there's a 0.75, 0.8% revenue which comes in from there. So obviously it's optimization of cost versus Vikram sir, we need you here.
Vikram, there's a question on TechCom which you
Jaggi asked a question which I think you're more competent.
Why don't you come up?
Yeah. So I need you to come up. So
it's an ambush. It's a BARC ambush.
So firstly, what is the number of boxes going up?
In terms of percentage,
no. So Vikram will answer the question. Will number of boxes going up, will it lead to relative errors being coming down? That's the question you asked. He will answer the question. I'm not sure. And at what stage it will happen. However, there is a big discussion happening at this point in time. Vikram and me are both involved on, and sir had started this on RPD, return path data. Yeah, we are working on that. The problem with return path, and that's in my mind, a foolproof way of doing it.
Of course.
There are 2 challenges with return path. Return path on DTH is possible. Not all operators are agreeing in the pilots at this point in time. Yeah. On cable is a monster. Yeah. And I will say something because I believe I'm a friend of the industry. So And you understand, and this part, I'll say in my personal capacity, not as BARC, that if you keep out, like some people are pushing us that, do only DTH and don't do cable. So time spent on cable is more than time spent on.
Of course, yeah.
And the implication of that is that total TV already is dropping, it will drop further.
Even my question is on the same thing, like as Jaggi says it, like today we are an amalgamation of national and regional media. But when we are sitting, we are totally represent our NBF as a federation. But the same question, since I represent Northeast, so we have a population around 45 million people, so touching every doorsteps. Our issue is that we are exempted from a lot of things like in DAVB, but when it comes to the TRP, that is a bread and butter. So ultimately, logistically, we are not supported. And the same sample size of 50,000, whether it's representing the 45 million people, like how do we do it? And in an earlier conversation, as I was hearing, so when it was News Live, Assam is okay. But in an other channel, when we have the Northeast Live, we represented the 8 states. But the thing is that in that case, when we are not logistically supported, our TRP level doesn't show high. And when we go to the planners, they strictly abide by saying that, no, you are not included. Then our existence comes into a threatening factor.
Absolutely.
So how do we explain that?
I'll answer the Assam question. I don't know, problem is in the forum you say how much you say, but well, I made that way, so I'll say. So there are 2 parts to this. Assam is an easier one for fix. We have been debating. You see, today Assam is part of HSM, rightly or wrongly, And when we do the relative errors, and I'm throwing this open for discussion so that, feedback can come as he talks of petition. Sorry, he's one of his there.
I'm here, no problem.
So one of the debates we are doing internally, and it's a contentious debate, if you understand the implication of what I'm saying, or I'm going to say just now, that suppose we treat Assam separately. It's not part of HSM. So, as a reporting market. Once you treat it separately, then obviously the sample has to be representative of Assam. So, sample may go out somewhat. But when you treat it separately, then a lot of broadcasters use Assam to build their numbers in HSM, may suffer. So, that's the debate we are doing.
Right now we have 2 TV channels. One is Assam based and one is Northeast based. My Assam based, which is News Live.
So I said it wrongly. What I meant was that take that whole part
Shashi,
out of HSM for discussion. Yeah.
Shashi, her point is
I think
Chiku can mention it better, but the point being made
yeah,
here
I can
about
put it
sample
straight.
size and representation.
Let me put it straight. That we all know that
Made here
I can
about
put it
sample
straight.
size and representation.
Let me put it straight. That we all know that regional channels are the future. But when the numbers come, the national channels numbers are always, GRPs are always more.
That's not true. That's not true.
Let me just tell you, I just want to give you an example. Since I have both the things, so I know. Now, you know that in the cable, the time spent is more. We also own a cable network, which is the largest one there. We have 25% subscribers who have not subscribed to any national channel. They only watch that regional channel in their own language. And I think this is the trend all across the country. A lot of MSOs are sitting here. So regional channels, there will be a population of 20 to 25% people who don't watch any other language. They only watch their own language. So they should always have a 20-25% advantage on the numbers. But when the numbers come, we see that in the same language. If other regional channels are there, their numbers are more than what the regional.
So maybe may I recommend we take this point offline, and because I've not understood the point. My point is that if you look at Andhra, or you look at Karnataka, or you look at Tamil Nadu, and the numbers, whatever we see, and you cut out the market, like Assam I called out because I know the problem in Assam. So here my impression is that the overall local language viewership is far higher than the national viewership. So therefore, I'm not able to empathize with
the point.
Why was the reverse path, methodology not adopted when we all knew that that was there, and with broadband coming in, almost all the MSOs,
so,
all the DTH players, it was already
so here you say return path. So the point I'm making is that what I said earlier, return path, firstly we'll take that 2-3 complications of return path. The first complication of return path, so we are moving, but we are moving slowly in that direction. The first return path on cable is not possible. In most markets, cable is, you can't get return path going there. Yeah, they're not, the boxes are not enabled. Number one. Number two, as you yourself said, on cable time spent is more.
Yeah.
Our concern as BARC is a stakeholder body to ensure that perception-wise, total TV done wrong. Minute you do only DTH, A, it's not representative, it's not fair, because 60% of India is cable.
Cable, yeah.
And you can't ensure thing drops further. You know, that's the second point. The third point is when you get return path, you will get household data. Correct? I am a big believer if you go with household makes sense, but you have to attribute it to individual data. Correct? When you attribute to individual data, whatever runs we are doing just now, we are working on it. The error levels are almost 40-50%.
Yeah.
Now that is something.
Yeah.
You
I
may
think
not want.
that
You know what it is?
Sanjeev.
The numbers are very less. The boxes, sample size boxes are 50,000.
No, I think the point-
And they determine 130 crores. So problem is, since the numbers are less.
Vikram, can you please help answering the question, the larger issue,
Yeah.
which is why I called you, and you are the master of this. That
Since
in
you have
different
taken over
ways-
as the anchor of the session, Shashi, now.
Huh?
You and Sanjeev, and you have taken over as anchor of the session.
No, fine.
But no. But Sanjeev, let him answer the question because we're getting late for the next one. Yes, Shashi.
So, Vikram, would you want to answer the larger question of our 50,000 boxes nationally or 4,000 boxes in a state like Andhra or 3,000 boxes in a state or whatever the number is, it may not reveal the numbers, or in Assam, are they enough or will you take the
No,
sample
I
up?
want to rephrase the question. If I can add to it, Shashi. The point which was being made just before Shashi called you in was, what Shashi said and further, there is a belief that like in elections, you know, when the population demography changes, there's delimitation exercise. Point being made is you are not represented enough in all parts of the Northeast. And the feeling among our association is that the representation of BARC is pre-decided towards certain geographies and that you need deeper penetration. It's not about increasing the sample size. It's about where you will put that sample size. Am I correct, Riniki? That's the point that you were making. Logistically, you are not in tune with where the viewership is.
I think also the other point is that, to put it in simpler terms, is that when you talk about the Northeast market, you're only referring to Assam. That's the fulcrum. I mean, if you say Northeast, it means Assam.
Okay.
The other states are not accounted for or neither represented. That's the point that I.
Wow. Okay, it's with 200 million TV sets and with the kind of heterogeneity that India has, it's obviously to say that it's a challenge to actually be able to say what each channel's ratings are going to be with a high degree of accuracy. It's a huge challenge. And we've got some 50,000 homes that we've got a panel in. So that it is obviously a challenge. So that's just giving you the setup. Now, finally, how do we look? Let me take an analogy. Whenever, say, elections are happening and the psephologists come in, they do some fantastic work.
Yes.
Some of them are very, very precise, and some of them are off the mark. But you don't like completely hang the guys who are off the mark. I mean, because they're also doing an estimation job based on talking to a few people and then coming back with a certain number. So I would urge firstly to have some forbearance with the rating system, because you can't expect it to be that bang on accurate, because if psephology is also not that precise and some of them are actually very, very good. I actually think BARC also comes pretty close to what the psephologists do. They are more right than they are wrong. That's my first point. Having said that, the next question becomes the data that comes out. There are, for any statistician, the data needs to be valid and it needs to be reliable. Valid basically means that it should be representative, so it should be representative of the universe that we are measuring. And reliable is that if it says the rating is 0.1, it should be actually 0.1, it shouldn't be 0, it shouldn't be 3. Now that for the validity of it, currently we have something that we call a baseline survey that we do, which sort of captures the entire media landscape, and from there we drive our sampling frame where our panel goes in. That is where we actually come back and choose where the 50,000 meters need to be. Would some districts or some regions be underrepresented? I'm sure they will be. Now, I guess at some point in time, the best way out is probably lobby like this, like you are doing right now.
Yes.
And maybe at the next point in time, we have to see that maybe in Northeast, we don't just paint with one brush, but obviously take it in and make sure that you got representation. but that will give you representation. It doesn't take away from the fact that if finally you've got, say in Manipur you have, say, 100 boxes, and you're supposed to represent the viewing of all the people in Manipur on the back of those 100 boxes. Is that enough or is that not? Now, that is where we look at something called relative error. And it's a statistical thing, and our attempt is to bring it down. Now, the problem is that because the time spent in the earlier panel we alluded to it, since the time spent is so less in news, each individual who's watching news is watching it differently. So it becomes very difficult for us with any kind of precision to say that if the guy is, I mean, if you've got 10 people in your panel in one particular city and you're projecting them to the universe, it's very difficult to say whether the universe is actually watching that or not. So there is a relative error that comes up. I think the implication for us is that since our entire revenues and everything are based on that, I think a statistician in your organizations should look at the data with relative error. You know, the problem that we are facing today is we are looking at the data very, very minutely. We look at the data and at an all India level, you'll be fine. But the minute you take a look at one city, and if it's a smaller city, it breaks down.
But Vikram,
within that, if you have to look at it by day part, and if you have to look at it for one particular channel, it further breaks.
But Vikram, what I would suggest is, since Shashi and you, we are having this chat, and we have to close now, what I am taking as a concrete takeaway, no, we'll have to close now, a recommendation here. We would like to visit you as head of TechCom, Shashi as head of BARC, chairman of BARC, as well as Nakul as CEO of BARC, and petition you on two things here, which have come up in the session. One is on landing pages, and our views on it, and how we want to put it out here for your understanding. And the second is on the demographic representation of parts of the country. So we will trouble you again in about a month on this. But I must close by saying that, yes, Shashi, closing
Can I say
thoughts.
something?
Yes.
In closing, one point I want to make. Since I've got this audience, and some of them are not here, but I want to make this plea. Help us by helping yourselves, which is stop infiltration. You know, broadcasters, well, collectively they talk, and I hope you understand the meaning of the word infiltration which I'm using. There's a fair degree of infiltration. We are, and I'm saying it publicly, I have gone to the IBDF president and said, listen, we have a big problem in Andhra, let's fix it, you know, instead of hiding underneath. Whatever you do, 3,000 boxes ma'am, 5,000 boxes, whatever you take, infiltration, we need industry help, otherwise we will stop the ratings.
May I respond to you by saying that it is factually been proven, and I don't want to go into details, that those who are being investigated for infiltration are not in this federation.
No,
I'll just wrap up by that. But I agree with you on the premise of it.
I'm making a...
Yeah, I agree with you on the premise, but I thank you for the generosity of your time today, both of you. Thank you very much. Shashi and Vikram, thank you.